Hey everyone, and welcome to Crafty Kiara. Today we're going to make our own wall stencil. And one of the sites I go to get my different images to make stencils is Pixabay, and you see that website here on the video. You're just going to type in what you're looking for. In this case we're looking for a bird stencil with some tree branches. So in this case a dove silhouette. This website's nice because these images are royalty free and they're easy to use, and you can sort by different things. In this case we want to sort by a vector graphic. You can also sort by different colors if you want. The particular image I'm looking for happens to be right there, and this is this one here. This is a dove on a branch, which is pretty nice. I'm just looking for a silhouette image. I didn't want anything too complicated. And then once you find the image you want to download it. Now here I'm going to go into a presentation program. In this case this is through LibreOffice, and this is the Impress presentation. If you have PowerPoint you can do the same thing. The main reason why I want to use this program is because you're able to make poster size images. So in this case you're going to take your image, you're going to put it on the slide here. The slide is at 8.5 by 11, your normal piece of paper. And you want to get the measurements of the wall that you're going to be putting the stencil on. In this case the wall size I'm using is going to be about 24 by 24. But I'm going to make the stencil a little bit bigger because there's a lot of white area. So you're going to go to your printer properties, and everybody's printer is different, but some of these are the same steps. You're going to want to do draft mode because you don't need color for this. You're going to want to make sure your orientation is landscape so you can get the most going across. And then you're going to go to your poster mode, and on this particular program you can choose whether you do a couple different sizes. There's 3x3, 4x4, 2x2. In this case I want to do 3x3, which kind of gives me a 3 foot by 3 foot area, and we're going to have a lot of white space to cut off, which is fine. Now make sure you measure what you're going to do first before you print it out, that way you're not wasting paper. Now one of the other things we're going to do is make sure that we are using cardstock and not regular paper, because that is going to be too thin, and cardstock is usually going to have to go into another tray. So here I select the rear tray, and then if you have the option to select cardstock or photo paper or whatever you want to use, you go ahead and make that selection there, and then you're going to print out your project. Now here I printed out the tiles that we're going to use. We have 9 altogether, and each piece has a label of where you're going to cut and where you're going to paste. And this is if you're going to leave this as just a poster, but in our case we're going to actually cut out the silhouette shape here, and we're going to make a stencil instead. So here you see I have one part of it done already, and I cut along all the black areas, and you got to cut along the edges. You got to make sure you cut out all the little tiny pieces here and there. Don't cut off the paste edge because you're going to need that to help you keep your stencil together. And then there's this little area here. I'm going to cut that little black piece out, but for right now it's there to help hold the white parts together, because you are going to have pieces that aren't going to quite attach to other stuff, and that's going to vary depending on the design you use. Now here you want to lay the stencil over top, and you're going to fill in the gaps where you're going to have, in this case, your branch pieces, because you're going to need to cut those out in order to make the stencil flow fluidly. And here you see I filled in the areas I'm going to need to cut out where the branches are going to be because of the overlap, and they're on that piece there. So you're just going to cut that piece out and continue cutting out the black parts of this particular stencil that we're making. Now here's a completed part here of the top of the branches, and you see where the overlap was cut out, it actually makes a nice solid stencil piece. You want to tape both sides, and then if you have a piece here that is not part of the original stencil, you can always create additional parts. So I'm going to take one of the leaves I cut out, I'm going to lay it there, and then I was going to draw on another piece of cardstock the rest of the shape, and I have that here. And you're going to just attach that with tape and just cut out that little white center piece there, and you have a whole new leaf. And you'll see that here. That's nice and cut out, and it looks like a whole leaf now. So you can do that on different designs that you have. As we go through this you'll see there's some other parts I may have to add on or adapt to. So here's the completed stencil. You notice I cut around it to make sure I don't have too much weight on it. Down at the bottom here I had to complete another leaf, and then pretty much just try to keep it together. There are two parts here that don't stay together, and that's right here, and I just mark which arrow piece they need to go up so that I put them on there correctly when I tape them individually. So here's the wall I chose to put on. It's between the front door and the linen closet. And I didn't want anything to stick out of the wall, so I wanted to go ahead and just make a little painting. In this case, this bird silhouette. Here's the stencil on the wall. Make sure it's as flat as possible. You don't want anything sticking up because when you're doing the sponge work, it might grab hold of the sponge. I used painter's tape, and then I also used scrapbooking photo mounting squares. Those help a lot too. So here's a section I've already started. I'm taking my little sponge brush and I have acrylic black paint, and I'm just going to dab it onto the wall here. You don't want to swipe it up and down because you'll catch the edge of the stencil. You just want to go up and down and just fill in. Take your time, it's not a rush, and just make sure you just don't have too much paint on the sponge. Wipe off some of it if you need to. But just go up and down, and I just go straight at it. I don't have it at an angle or any sort of curve at all. Just up and down, and start at the top and work your way towards the bottom of the stencil as you go. So here's most of the top part done. You can see the shape is starting to take hold, and here's the rest of it all filled in. You want to let this dry. Let it dry overnight, let it dry for a while, because you're going to have a little bit of paint here and there, and when you take the stencil off you might end up touching it in a certain area and it might leave a stray mark that you'll have to clean up. Here is the stencil here, and there are a few things that we're going to need to touch up to make it look proper. There are some pieces where it didn't quite get the paint, or it may have come off with the stencil itself, or it didn't quite fit into place. And some of the leaves look kind of wobbly, and that would be from a stencil bleed. You're not going to get a super sharp point on this. And then we did have a little piece of the wall come off there, so I have to do the paint differently. Here's the wobbly edge of the leaf here, and next I'm going to show you what it looks like when you do your touch-up. You want to make it as smooth as possible. See, that looks more along the lines of a professional stencil there. So as you see here, I got everything all filled in. I even added the eye for the bird, and it is all done. If you liked what you saw in the video, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube here. You can also follow us on social media. You can also follow us and check out our blog at craftykiara.com. And of course, you can go check out our shop on Etsy for Crafty Kiara Shop. That's all for today, and I'll see you at the next video.